One of the most fun things about jazz guitar is chord melody, and I'm sure you can imagine what it feels like to play songs like you hear Joe Pass or Ted Greene perform. And we all enjoy exploring the song, adding beautiful colors and extensions to the chords. Now, this is not an easy process, and it might even seem impossible, but there are a few easy ways to get started. And I'm going to show you in this video using the beautiful song Georgia on My Mind. I'll also talk about many of the useful skills that you develop working on chord melody. Let's start with a weird mistake. The name chord melody is completely wrong. It's not some chords with a melody, it's a melody with added chords to support it. And that doesn't matter that much, except that for all three methods, you want to start with the melody and then add the chords. The melody is the most important part of the song. Now, when it comes to getting the melody ready, that is mostly about understanding the basic anatomy of the guitar in terms of chords. A very general guideline is that the 6 strings are split into 3 2-string groups where you have bass on the lower strings, the basic chord tones on the middle set, and the melody on the top strings. There are more options for how you do this, but find a way to play the melody on the high string set, B and E, something like this. This is just about being practical. Playing the melody on the top strings makes it easier to add chords under it. And the way I'm doing it here is not set in stone. Along the way, you might find that it's easier to move a melody note to put a good sounding chord under it. But that's also about you learning to be more flexible and have a better knowledge of the fretboard. Now you can use this way of playing the melody as a foundation to add chords. Let's get to the first strategy. This is by far the most efficient way to create a complete chord melody, even if the melody that I chose to work with will actually demonstrate 2 problems that you run into. Now, if you watched any of my videos on beginner jazz chords, then you know that the best place to start is with the 3-note shell voicings. The shell voicings fit perfectly into the guitar anatomy that you saw in the previous section. So there's a good chance that that will work for this song as well. Now, since Georgia on My Mind is an F major, then you have this set of diatonic chords with the root on the E string. And another set of chords with the root on the A string. This should already cover most of what you need, but there is one chord that's a bit strange, which is the G over B. Now that's a triad inversion, but there's actually an easy solution for that one as well. Let's look at the first 4 bars. Now the first chord is actually surprisingly tricky. The first melody note is of course this A, and then I can add an F major 7 under that. And now when the melody continues, then I need to play the C, and that's a little bit tricky because I need to let go of one of the chord tones. And that does work, it's okay, because we already heard the F major 7, but there are more elegant ways to do this, and I'll return to that later. The next part is the E half diminished to A7, and here I'm playing that here. The way I'd laid out the melody originally, then I had this, but it's easier to do this if I want to have the chords under it. Now for the D minor 7, if I play this D minor, then I have the A, that's the melody right here. And then I can just move the bass down. And then of course, since I'm moving the bass down here, so it makes sense that I want to play the G over B with the B here. And the melody is of course the G. Now I just need to add in the rest of the notes from the chord. So I have the B, then I can add the G and the D, and of course the melody. And that also makes it easy to transition to the B flat minor 6, because that's right here. And then we're down on the A minor. As you can see, the process is pretty simple, and it was also fairly easy to figure out the G over B. So what can we do about that first F major 7? Now, one trick that is very useful is to realize that you can play a major 6 chord whenever it says major 7. And in this case, that makes it a little bit easier to sustain the chord. And you can even add in the F major 7 later to have a bit of variation, like this. I could also have moved the melody and played the chord on the 13th fret. This is where it becomes about what you find easier to play and what you think sounds better. With this approach, you have a complete chord melody arrangement, and there are places where you can also add small voice leading tricks and passing chords, like this B flat 7 in bar 2. or this very simple fill under the melody moving from G over B to B flat minor 6. There are many beautiful moves to discover, but you can also start in a completely different place, one that's even simpler than the shell voicings. Another way to start is by not adding a complete chord to the melody, but just the bass note. For a lot of jazz standards, this is actually a surprisingly solid approach, and the song will sound full already with just 2 notes. John Scofield uses this quite a lot, and he also mixes it with the next strategy that I cover in this video. The first step is to just add the bass notes. Now that could be something like this, and I'm sure you can hear how clear a picture of the harmony you actually get. Now we can start adding more notes, and because you are starting with only 2 notes, then you get some other ideas and other ways of playing the chords. Especially the first and the last bars are different in this example. The F major 7 chord becomes a lot easier to play, and it still sounds great because the voicing doesn't double the third. It also sets us up to play a chromatic line down to the E half diminished. On the G over B, then that is arpeggiated, so I'm starting with the melody and the bass note and then adding in the other chord tones, which is really just a great way to keep things moving. And this is similar to how Joe Pass describes it when he talks about the illusion of chord melody.
A lot of people think that you're playing like bass notes at the same time you're playing chords, at the same time you're playing melody. And it's not like that. It's an illusion. You're playing a bass note sometimes, you're playing a chord sometimes, you're playing the melody most of the time.
It's worth noticing how this approach makes some things easier and others kind of just remain the same. Let me know which one of these strategies you prefer using. But we also have another approach, and if you like moving voices and some of the finer voice leading tricks, then this might be exactly what you're looking for. And it has a bonus feature when it comes to solo guitar. This first approach with the shell voicings will make some things easier but others difficult. It's easy because it's more visual. So you play the melody note like this C, and then you try to see how you can fit an F major 7 shell voicing under that note. And here you're thinking of that F major 7 shell voicing more like one thing as a grip. Now the problem is that both playing the shell voicing and the melody is often kind of difficult, but you could also be more detailed about this and instead just look at what notes you need to add to have a complete rootless voicing of the chord. Now this requires you to be more familiar with both the chord tones and the fretboard, but it's also really a great way to work on that while making chord melody arrangements. And I'm sure that I learned a lot from doing exactly that. For the F major 7 under the C, you get a few different options. The C's here, and then of course we could just take the 7th and the 3rd on the middle string set. But you can also place the A an octave higher, and then you get this. Or I could take the low A, and then of course we still have the melody, and then I want to play the 7th, the E, on the B string. Of course you can get a lot more variations than this, and you could also explore using an F6 instead of an F major 7. There's no best option for this. It's more about how you see it fit with where the song is going and what ideas you get from it. Now this is a great way to explore new ways of getting from one chord to the next. First, check out this completely rootless version, and then I'll combine it with complete voicings afterwards. And especially you want to notice how much counter melody you can add now. Most of this is about adding small stepwise or scale melodies inside the progression. The F major 7 gets a chromatic leading note that takes us down to the E half diminished. Now the E half diminished A7, I've chosen to put the 3rd and the 7th on the G and B strings, and that allows me to have a low B flat in there as well. And that's of course the flat 5 on the E half diminished and the flat 9 on the A7. And then I'm also adding this small melody to transition from the E half diminished to the A7. Now there are no surprises on the D minor 7, but in the next bar, then I'm again using that the melody is a chord tone. So first we have the G over B, and then I'm moving up to get this voicing for the B flat minor 6, which allows me to put the B flat in there as well. Where these three strategies get really powerful is of course when you start to combine them. There you can really make things move and add color. Check this out. Applying these things to songs and exploring what you can do with the chords and the melody is a lot of fun. Check out this video for a great first song to start exploring, Autumn Leaves. There's a complete arrangement and some beautiful embellishments and passing chords that you can add to it. Learn jazz, make music.